Hello, hello. Welcome to Convos for A Bubbly Life. I'm your host, Tiara, aka T, and I love to live a life that is bubbly. We are exploring the journey of creating your version of a bubbly life, an extraordinary life designed by you. So let's get to it. Today, I'm super excited because I have the lovely Kim with me, and we are going to be talking about how she lives a bubbly life. So Kim, can you please introduce yourself and share what you do?
Hey, thanks, Tiara. Yes, my name is Kim Freese, and I support women, courageous women who are in that struggle of unworthiness, of not feeling good enough, so that they can really just step outside, live fully in their confidence and in their power. And I do that using my Brave methodology.
Ooh, brave methodology. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
Sure. So it's Brave is an acronym. And the B is for breakthrough. The R is multiple words, but right now I'm going with reset and rewire. And the A is an activation to alchemize. And B is vision. And E is it's all about the energetics.
I love it because energy is everything.
That's right.
I love it.
The foundation, but it's got to make it all work to the.
Right, exactly. So, can you share what does a bubbly life mean for you?
Oh gosh, living like you are just like, I love just being in your space when we got to travel together, but just really taking in the beauty of every moment. And some of those moments are not what we would call bubbly or happy, but we can find the beauty in the or the lesson in the challenge. So really just living life present and not in the future and not in the past is part of it.
I love that. That's beautiful. So, how do you embody living a bubbly life?
Honestly, not all the time. Do I embody it? I was having one of those moments or hours earlier this morning. It's like, oh, okay, bring back, recenter, let's look at the picture as a whole. But just, like I have a golf course outside my window. And so when I'm in my office and I'm working and, things are kind of getting sticky, I can look out and see, either a golfer or the birds or whatever. And so that just brings me back into the present moment to just be appreciative and just to find joy in everything possible. That to me is bubbly.
Yes.
Because when I see you, I see you as like the epitome of joy.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I love that you said that like not everything is always bubbly or happy or joyful. And that's very true. I can tell people, I love to tell my audience that like, not everything is always going to be sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. Like we all go through things, whether it's like death in the family or, just like not having a good day to start off with. And so I want to know, how do you deal with something when it's like doesn't come off like immediately as a bubbly situation? Like, how do you deal in those kind of situations?
Lately, I've kind of been wallowing in it. I hate to admit that, but it's the truth. And sometimes we have to, just so that we can find the duality of that, not good moment or, whatever that we're looking at. So like the opposite of the bubbly is, sometimes we're down in the mud. And so, but like the lotus, we grow out of the mud. So those challenges really help to make us who we are, at this time in the timeline.
Oh yeah. Oh, that is beautiful. And I love that you like brought up the lotus and also the fact that like, sometimes we're wallowing, right? And I was totally in I was with one of my mentors earlier today, and in the discussion, she talked about like the grieving process, right? And sometimes we don't allow ourselves to feel emotion, and we don't need to just like force ourselves to be happy all the time. That's not what a bubbly life is. When we allow ourselves to feel that emotion, release whatever needs to be released, learn a lesson if a lesson needs to be learned. That's how we grow and expand and continue on with life. So there's no need to have judgment when we're like, oh, like I feel shitty today. It's totally fine to feel shitty. Like, acknowledge it, understand it, see what is it that's really causing this feeling, and then you can choose to shift out of it if that's what you're ready to do, right? And only you can tell yourself when it's appropriate to shift your energy.
Right. And it doesn't have to happen in the moment. And, like if we are in that constant, happy, positive, that's bypassing.
Right.
And, I've probably done that before too. I've probably done it all. But if we're bypassing, then we're not really getting to the root of it. So, and I don't always get to the root of everything, but I do question, like, okay, why am I feeling this way today? Like, yesterday, I think it was, I was like, okay, is there something going on energetically, like, in the world, with the
Mm-hmm.
planets or consciousness or, whatever. And so I messaged one of our friends and I'm like, all right, is there something going on? Because like, I'm just like pissed off at everybody. And, and I just want to cry. Just
Right.
like really for the first half of the day, all I wanted to do was just sit and cry. And I was like, why is this? But then I also tried to feel it and I did let some tears flow, but I had other things that needed to get done. So I set it aside for a while. And today that feeling is pretty much gone. So
Yeah. I like that. Like you said, you made a choice, right? You were like, all right, I'll allow this to happen, but like, you didn't need to like sit in it all day. You're like, all right, I got other shit to do. So
exactly.
we can move on. We can save it for like, a later date if necessary. And if you don't need to revisit it, you don't need to revisit it. And it's all gravy, baby. So can you talk a little bit about like exactly like what do you do in your work? I know like I've had hypnotherapy with you, which was awesome. So what are you working on now?
I've got a group program that will be launching later in April. And so people can get, on the wait list for that. And it's going to be around unworthiness because that's what I keep seeing like coming up in different groups and social media and things that, people are like, gosh, I'm not feeling worthy of this, whether it be worthy of income or worthy, for a relationship. And there's so many things that we can get wrapped up in the word worthy. And
Mhm.
so that will be kind of the basis of it. Excuse me. But yeah, I do a form of hypnotherapy called rapid transformational therapy. And then, of course, I put my own other modalities that I've learned in with that. And with energetics at the base of it, because everything is energy. And if we are not, um, if we've got something going on spiritually, it may or may not come out in hypnotherapy, depending on what it is. So I do use my Healy device, which is an energetic, bioenergetic personal frequency device that I can run remote scans and things. And so I use that in sessions now as well. And so that we can really get like whatever's like at the bottom that we might not know, it might bring that up to the surface before we get started. So.
Super cool. I love it. And I've had Kim do the Healy on me, and it's really cool, like the frequency, and it doesn't, like there's not like sound or anything that's happening, but like you can see the wavelengths move on it. And so I think that's really cool. And energy is everything. So I want to lean into the unworthiness portion, because I feel like that's such a huge thing to think about when we in terms of like creating a bubbly life for ourselves, because we are the creators of our reality. We are the creators of our universe. We are in charge of our life. And a big portion that I see when I talk to people about like going for their dreams and doing the things that they want to do, finding their passion, all kind of stems from like whether or not they feel like they can do it, like they feel like worthy enough to do it, like and the programming that's in their minds of whether or not it's even possible for them. And I do feel like a lot of it is tied to their self-worth. So how can you like determine whether or not you feel like unworthy? Because sometimes I feel like it's like hiding for people if they don't understand the concept.
Definitely. And I find that with my hypnosis clients that even if they're not coming to me, because I will have some occasionally that say, I just am not feeling whatever enough, pretty enough, good enough, smart enough, all the things. And that might not come up like the reason that they're coming to me, but that could come up in the first just kind of discovery conversation. And I hear that over and over again, like not enough. And then I also hear unworthy, but maybe it's not said as as unworthy, or they, worthy of that. And it shows up, and it's really subconscious. It's not, some people I think can consciously say, I'm not feeling worthy of whatever. And money is a big one. Like we can come up with a lot of conscious things that around money, that maybe we don't feel worthy to earn, 6 figures, but we feel worthy to earn, 75,000, for instance, and so it's really just to get to that is really conversation, and say, okay, what is going on? And then as people start to talk, then you're really kind of getting at that conscious level of really what's underneath and the things that come up. Confidence is a big one that comes up, in conversation, as well as like not feeling confident. Well, okay, why do you not feel confident? Because I don't feel worthy of. So, yeah.
Oh,
it's kind of one of those foundational things, but we don't consciously always grasp it. That's what I found anyway with working with my clients.
Can you speak a little bit about your unconscious self versus your conscious self?
Sure. So I love to use the analogy of the iceberg. And so if you've ever seen a photo of an iceberg that shows the top of the water and underneath the water, one of those kind of cool photos, you see underneath the water, the iceberg is like 3 or 4 or 5 times the size of what's on top of the water. And so that piece that's on top of the water is, I refer to as our conscious thinking, our conscious brain, and that are our conscious mind. And that is like 5 to 10%. And the unconscious is everything below the water. And it's all of that programming or things that we picked up, made up, because our brilliant minds, come up with all of this stuff. We could be 2 years old and our brilliant mind came up with something that's really now stored in our subconscious mind, because I don't know about you, T, but I don't remember things when I was 2.
No.
So a lot of that is early things and things that we were told, as children. For instance, use this example, excuse me, of a little boy who had a skin like eczema, and mom had to put like lotion all over the eczema and wrap it and stuff because it was irritating. Well, when the little boy was asked, he's like, well, mommy's doing this, she's not paying attention to the baby, she's paying attention to me. And so his brilliant mind at that young age said, if I'm sick, basically have something that needs attention, then I get the attention. And so my body is going to come up with this eczema so that I get the attention. Ooh. And so I hope that explains it.
Yeah. So we have these, sometimes we don't even, because the unconscious is, there's a lack of awareness, right? In my opinion. So it's just like, okay, so your response, you have like this auto response to whatever, and you don't really understand like when that like I don't know, the stove, for example, you have this auto response to like not touch the stove once it's hot, and you may or may not have a conscious memory of like where you learned to not touch the stove. Maybe you were taught that, maybe you're like me and had a curiosity of, okay, the burner is no longer red, is it immediately cold, or does it take time? And I literally remember being 3 years old and asking myself this question. My dad's standing right there. I did not ask him out loud. I decided to find out for myself. And then I'm like, ow, and I'm crying. My dad's like, what just happened? What did you do? And I was like, well, I wanted to know if it's no longer red, is it still hot? Because it was like one of those old school like coil burner things. And I learned that day that just because it's not red does not mean that is it still takes time.
Right.
But that's like a conscious learning experience. Whereas sometimes, you just have like people tell you things. My experience of like, oh, well, you're not going to, you're unrealistic to want to be an actor or something like that. You can't be an actor. You're not famous already. And we don't know famous people. So that was something that was like told to me. And then, implanted itself in the back of my mind. And as I became older, like I didn't realize that I implanted it in myself. Like I didn't make a conscious choice to be like, this is a belief that I have. But later on in life, I was just like, oh, I can't do that. Like I have to come up with something more realistic to do with my life. And like, you know, I talk a lot about my experience on this podcast. So you guys have probably heard me go on and on, wax on poetically about it. But that's kind of that's how it works, right? We upload something that someone says, or we've seen something, and then make it become our truth, and then we have to consciously make the choice of whether or not we want that to be our truth anymore.
Right. And because it is subconscious, it's, you know, like the, you know, the lesson of what you just shared, you know, about being an actor. Well, until you really started examining that, you didn't realize that you had that.
Yeah.
And so that's why, you know, people are of, you know, I don't want to get into trauma, so we won't go there. But yeah, because our brilliant minds, you know, you were told that, maybe you were told that at 5, because I know you, because you shared either on the podcast or personally, is like you love to perform in front of people. So, you know, it's like, you know, hello. So then somebody may have said something when you were 5, and again, that was one of those little things that implanted. And so until you know, grew up and really started examining that. So that's a great example.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. And I'm sure we all have these like little things that we don't even know. And so I love that you had brought up money earlier, right? And, you know, being unworthy of money, and the like differentiating between like 6 figures and 75K. Like, I'm curious, like, how do we even like realize that like we have like this limit, this like upper limit of like, okay, well, I'm totally cool with like making like this much, but like, oh no, like I can't make this much. And how do we kind of let that go?
And it's all, you know, in my experience, it's all subconscious. So it could be money stories that we picked up, you know, from parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles, or, you know, somebody, if you know, attended church or synagogue, or, you know, whatever, you know, something that you heard, or, you know, there's a belief in the spiritual world that, you know, spiritual people can't earn a lot of money, although we've seen that is debunked, but some people believe that. And so it's not necessarily because they're in the spiritual world, there's something in their past belief system that they haven't examined enough to know, oh yeah, so like the whole lack mentality, right? Like, oh, there's enough to get by. Or you know, when I was a kid, like hearing, we can't afford that, you know, you can't go to camp because we can't afford that, but instead we'll go do this. Well, we never did go do the other thing either. So, you know, then there's that, okay, then we can also take that, we can't afford it, to make it believe that we're not worthy to have the money spent on us, or to earn the money to spend it on ourselves. You know, it can go so many different ways. It just depends on what our personal brilliant minds have, you know, made it believe at whatever age that was.
Right. Can you, for those who, because I never use the phrase money story, can you define money story for those who might not know what that is?
So if you grew up in a low to middle class, low income, middle income, middle class income, or, you know, maybe your family was very wealthy, you have beliefs around that. If you grew up wealthy, and it's not always the case because there are other things, but if somebody grew up in a wealthy household, then they believe that yes, they can earn a lot more, that money is abundant, that, you know, there's always plenty to have. And if you grew up with low income, then you might have a subconscious belief of, I have to work hard for my money. You know, my mom worked 3 jobs, you know, because she was a single mom and had, you know, this isn't my story, but this is, you know, what you hear, you know, to be, you know, scrape by. Or, you know, I heard fights when I was a kid, and, you know, my parents were fighting about money. And so, and that can be even with wealthy. I mean, it's not
right.
generally kind of what I see generally, you know.
Yeah, it's, our perception of what is money, right? And our energy towards it. So based off of our own experiences, that's kind of what we develop. So I like you said, like, I've never read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, but I have heard synopsis of basically, if you have someone that's grown up with a rich father, like you were saying, then you might have a more open viewpoint of like how money can come to you versus someone that's had a poor dad who has always struggled, and therefore you might think that you have to struggle in order to earn money, and earning money is hard. So whatever your perception is and whatever you carry, but at the end of the day, you get to choose whether or not you want to perceive money being a hard thing to access, or raise up to your frequency to be like, money's easy. It's abundant.
Exactly.
And you can shift that mindset, and with that shift your financial flow, which is super epic.
Exactly.
I know I personally had my own download today around money when I was like, thinking about like, all right, accessing more and where am I going to go next. And one of the things that popped up is that like sometimes I use the phrase like, I can afford a lot of shit. Okay. Like, but I will sometimes limit myself in the thought of like, well, instead of saying, I just don't want to participate in something, I will lean into, I don't want to afford it because people are weird about talking about money. And it was an unconscious choice. But now that I'm thinking about it consciously, I realize that I would use like, oh, I can't afford it, or that's expensive, as a default to being able to say no for something that I just didn't want to invest in. And, maybe I did feel like it was out of the price point of what I was willing to invest for something like that. That might be the core of it, but it might just be that I don't find fun in it. So I don't want to pay for it.
Right.
And
That's great that you caught yourself.
Yeah. And so it's just like, when we perpetuate these kind of things, then I feel like the universe is like, oh, you don't want to be able to afford shit. Well, let's make that happen for you. Let's figure out how to cut that flow a little bit. So when we catch ourselves talking about, okay, well, like, I can't earn this because whatever reason, and a lot of it is tied to self-worth, or I don't want to, like, I can't invest in that because that's going to take away from others. That's, creating this lack mindset. And if we open ourselves up to say like, I am worthy of investing in a group program and getting, hypnotherapy and working through my shit so I can open up myself even further to more abundance, like that's a huge conversation for ourselves. And that's expansion.
Exactly. Yeah. There was something that you said, like, and we have to be careful of the words that we say, right?
Yeah.
Like you acknowledge that I was using, oh, I can't afford it as a way to say no, but then you're saying I can't afford it. And the subconscious mind doesn't know what can't is. It
Yeah.
doesn't know the no. So saying that I can't is also, it could also be saying I am affording it, but oh, I know what it was. The choice, right? It all boils down to choice. So instead of saying I can't afford it, we can say, I choose not to spend my money on that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives it a different energy. We maybe really can't afford it. Like we may not have the money to pay for, whatever it is. But if instead of saying that, then we can say, I just choose not to spend my money on that right now. Because if we really wanted to the thing, we would find a way to make it happen.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I've when I think about my life, like there's if I really, really, really wanted something, I figured it out. At the end of the day, like I might have felt like a little bit of a pinch in some other aspect of my life, but at the end of the day, I figured it out.
If we want something, we find a way to make it happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We make the choice.
That's right.
I love this. This has been a wonderful conversation. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience today?
Just be careful of the words that you say to yourself and examine those too. When you find yourself, and this isn't really about the, affirmations and things like that. You can bring that into it, but I found for me personally, affirmations did work because my subconscious mind would go, that ain't true. And that's bullshit. And, so you keep telling yourself, since we're talking about the money story, I am rich, whatever you think the word rich means.
Right.
It means different things for different people. But, if you're thinking it's, $1 million in the bank and you don't have $1 million in the bank and you keep saying, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, my subconscious mind says that's bullshit. That is not there. And I don't see it anywhere in the near future. So, X that affirmation out. But instead asking the question of, why does money flow so easy to me? Then our subconscious mind goes to look for, well, why does it? Like, we don't have to write down and come up with the answer. It brings all back to the card deck, my Wildly Curious card deck. Like,
I
why
love
does money flow so abundantly to me? Well, why does it? Well, and your subconscious mind starts looking for the reasons that it has. So, well, gosh, I got a really nice birthday gift, in cash from a friend and, from a parent or, whatever. So we start to see that and like, well, yeah, I am rich, I'm rich in a lot of things. I'm rich in friendships and, rich doesn't have to be money, that form of energy. It can be so much more. And that's why, abundance. So
Yes, the frequency, energy is everything, right?
that's right.
With that, you did bring up your deck, which I love. I think it's beautiful. The affirmations, the being like asking yourselves these questions so that we can reprogram our minds to see. So when, like you said, like I am rich. Some people have an issue with saying I am rich or I am wealthy or I am abundant or whatever, because their brain is like stuck on the lack of like, well, let me tell you all the reasons why you're not. And then, but when you say like, what makes me abundant, then you're forcing your brain to see the abundance, see the miracles, see all of the beauty that is around you in that moment, which I think is just phenomenal ways to rework it. So is that deck still available for people to purchase?
It is. It's just wildlycuriousdeck.com. And just click, yes, I'm ready to be wildly curious. And that'll take you to the checkout page. So that.
Yay. I love it. Perfect. Wonderful. And if people want to connect with you, where are the best places that they can reach you?
Probably the easiest is Facebook at facebook.com/Coach Kim Freese. And that's with an S, Freese versus Z. And that's my business page and in Messenger, whatever. I'm on TikTok, Kim_Freese. Still learning the whole TikTok. You're setting a good example for me. So.
Oh, thank you. All right. So I will have Kim send me her links and I will put that in the description of this podcast so you can have easy access to both the deck and ways to connect with Kim, as well as I'll put in the website so you can sign up and for her wait list for her group for unworthiness and having that conversation, because that's super exciting. And I think that's definitely something to really invest in if you are feeling the call and the pull to do it, like make it happen.
It'll be very affordable.
Yes, I love it. I'm excited to hear more and watch you grow. And I'm sure that I will have you on again sometime soon.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kim, for joining. And friends, remember to like, subscribe, and share this out if you haven't already. And of course, you can always go to www.abubbly.life/luxury living to see all of the different things that I've got going on and ways that you can participate and continue to expand in living a bubbly life. All right, friends, I will catch you on the next one.